Hey, welcome, folks, to another episode of Queen's Comic Podcast. I'm Billy Bombs,
I'm Ian.
and we're going to talk about our experience at a convention that we had to split up to go to two different shows. And turns out it was three different shows on the same day in March. I went to Big Apple Con in Manhattan, and where'd you go, Ian?
I went to King Con 4 in Islin, New Jersey.
Now let's compare notes and who had the better time.
All right.
I guess I'll start because Big Apple's like the originator of a lot of shows here in New York. He's the longest running show. Like we joke, the Queen's Comic Party is the shortest running show ever. But they are like the goats. They're the original guys who did it. But they did a last minute kind of booking for March 26th, was it?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, March 26th in 2023 to do a show. A lot of artists, a lot of stuff there. I went out there. I wanted to advertise for our show. We do a monthly show as well called Queen's Comic Party. It goes with Queen's Comic Podcast, of course. I did real well picking up dollar books, but other than that, it was a little bit too packed for my taste. It was like hard to move and a lot of cosplayers.
I found that the last two times I went to Big Apple Comic Con, which was the two shows from 2022 that they did, same experience. It was good for shopping, but you are shoulder to shoulder pretty much the entire time. There weren't a lot of cosplayers when I was at the two that I went to, but I can see that changing as COVID restrictions lighten up and whatnot.
Oh yeah, the warmer it gets, the more wild the cosplay.
Yeah.
That's the part that got to me. I traded some numbers with some people. We were joking around to do other shows, and I do like some of the effort put in. But and they do a pretty good job of separating the cosplay to have their own like fashion show type thing, where it's a whole runway and a contest.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, they have this guy named Captain Zorik runs it. And he's been running it for years, and he's a great guy, so it always cracks me up.
Do you think that's his real name?
No, it's probably like John. Like that. He's like an Astoria guy, so I've seen him a couple of times, and he's super tall. Like he's almost as tall as Ian. Like,
oh my goodness!
Yeah, because Ian always jokes when he comes into my house. It's like the Shire because everything's short, and he has to duck everywhere. But I racked up a lot of books. I'm not gonna lie to you. I went with Bags and Borbs, an Instagram guy named Jason, but we call him Bags and Borbs. He picked up a lot of books, and I picked up a lot of dollar books, $2 books, just to flip later on because they were such good prices. I did a lot from Heroes Reborn, I think it is, or Heroes Con from
Heroes Reborn. They're from North Carolina, I think.
North Carolina.
Okay,
yeah.
So you tell your story. I'll tell my story about them.
All right. They had a lot of great books, and I tried to talk to them to try and get my big book is Captain Marvel Jr. in an electric chair. And the guy's like, I have it, but it's not here because they come fully loaded.
Mm-hmm.
The way they load up the truck, I've copied to load up my van, where they take these yellow Home Depot buckets, the yellow and black ones, and put two short boxes in each one and just stack them. But they come with a gigantic U-Haul from all the way from North Carolina. They had good prices. There was a lot of oddball vendors there, but like they were the most professional. What's your story before I jump to another guy?
So the last Big Apple Con I went to, they were set up there. They've always got great stuff.
Yes.
The prices are always pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I think because they're coming from out of state, they seem maybe priced a little lower because New York tends to be a little higher.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So I was flipping through there and he had first printings of the first three issues. I'm sorry, the four issues of Fantagor, the Richard Corbin Underground.
Oh, wow.
And he sold them to me for $60 for the four of them.
Yeah.
So I love that guy.
Great guys. Great. The older man that I dealt with, great guy. He like was like, oh, what are you into? You know, like we talked. I love that. That guy, that's a feeling you don't get in New York too much because everybody's kind of like just trying to look for money and move on.
You can tell that guy's in it for life. It has been in it for life, and then he loves comics.
Well, there's an older couple that comes to Big Apple from Manhattan, and it's this older cat and his wife, and they have some great Silver Age, and they all work with people. They always take the corner right before you go up to the stairs, and they're always there. Great prices, great books. This guy has a great Silver Age collection always.
Cool.
And but there's a lot of like Funko Pop guys, and I feel kind of bad because it seems like a dwindling business. And so a lot of them were like very bare bones. But then all the comic people having a good time. And they were buying a lot of books. I went to every vendor as best I can and just tried to grab as much as I can of like good stuff. Well, you never know it's going to be gone. The Long Island guys were there. They were good. Absolute Comics was great. Absolute Comics and Statues. You ever followed them online?
No.
Follow them. They're like regular like dudes that we deal with all the time. I do Royal Collectibles. They have a convention with them, and we do it in their backyard. And I'm always across from the guy who owns Absolute, and they're great guys. They're great.
If they've been around the local shows, I'm sure I run into them. I just probably don't follow them online and know exactly who they are.
Oh, true. But they're good jokers. They they're guys who are definitely having fun selling comics. But before I jump into the artist way, how was the comics at King Kong?
So again, I did a lot of dollar bin digging as well. My big pickup not in terms of monetary value, but in terms of like just something I've been looking for forever, is there's an issue of Simpsons Treehouse of Horror that has a Bernie Wrightson Swamp Thing parody story in it that he did.
Oh, what issue is that?
I want to say, I don't have it with me, but I want to say it's number 11.
All right, because I'm trying to finish that run.
Yeah, it's not easy to find.
No, none of them are. None of the treehouses are hard.
They aren't. And I've been outbid on eBay. I've gone up to like $30 on it before, and I've always been outbid on it by like
what was the final price here?
I got it for $2 at the convention. And I told the guy, I said, I've been looking for this book for like a couple of years. I always get outbid. I've never found it at like a price that I was willing to pay, because I've seen it go for like $40, $50, which it shouldn't be that high. That seems crazy to me. But
when it comes to Simpsons people,
it's Simpsons people. It's not Wrightson people. It's Simpsons people. Mm-hmm. And so to find it for $2, I was stoked.
100%.
Yeah.
Dude, that I'm trying to finish that run in the regular Simpsons run. That's my I only have 3 big books I'm trying to collect. Mm-hmm. I always tell people it's X-Men 50 from Jim Steranko, because I'm a big fan of Polaris on the cover. It's so nice. I've been contemplating getting it tattooed on me. Captain Marvel Jr. on the electric chair, and then X-Men 94, which is the first Chris Claremont taking over the run with, was it John Burns, the artist at the time? Or?
I don't remember. I am not an X-Men guy.
Oh, really?
I'm not an X-Men expert. I'll put it that way.
Fair enough. And Chris Claremont lives near one of our venues, so I always see him, and I'm desperate to try and get him to come to a barbecue, because
we should go drinking with Chris Claremont.
Well, he lives on the other side. Bags and Borbs lives on the other side of the block from him, mm-hmm. So I think they've seen each other walk in their yard, and he's like, "Oh, that's my favorite writer of all time."
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he showed him off his new Wolverine tattoo, which made me laugh. So
that's funny.
At the last con, but he's a good guy. I'm dying to get those 3 books. But the big whale, harder than all of them, is Simpsons. Mm-hmm. Simpsons is harder than getting a nice copy of Giant Size X-Men for a good price, because at least you'll find it. Later issues of later issues of Simpsons from 125 up is so difficult. It's easier. So getting that is a great book. What's another one that you got that was like a good grail?
I picked up a couple of copies of Twisted Tales.
Nice.
I always pick those up from dollar bins, just because, and I either move them at a small profit. They're not worth a lot of money, or I give them to people, because there's always like cool artists involved with them.
Yeah, you're a big art guy, so that's what's dope.
Yeah, right? I collect more by artist than I do by title usually. I picked up the last Rocketeer Dave Stevens book that I needed, which was actually the Disney movie adaptation. He only did the cover on it.
Still cool.
Yeah, I didn't have that one, so that's like the last of the pieces of the Dave Stevens Rocketeer puzzle that I had to fill. So I was happy to do that, and I got original Swamp Thing number 5, nice. Which was the last Wrightson issue that I needed to finish that run. So that was a big box to check off for me there.
Oh, dude, that's the goal of every con, is to finish something.
Yep.
Finish a run, finish a lost piece, because you have so many vendors coming from all over. Mm-hmm. Before I jump to the next subject on the con, what was the most expensive book you picked up there?
It was the Swamp Thing number 5, which I paid $20 for.
So you did great.
Yeah, I spent $100, $120. I didn't spend very much, and I left with a huge stack because I was just digging through dollar bins. Zap Comics out of New Jersey. I don't know if you know them or not.
Yeah, I know. They're a great store.
They're a good store, yeah. And so they were set up there, and every time they're set up at King Con, they have a bunch of $3 boxes. And because I was able to get in a little early, thanks to a friend, shout out to Anthony, I was able to hit those $3 boxes before the masses did.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
So I pulled out 3 issues of Jack Kirby's Demon that I needed. Nice. So I'm getting closer to finishing that run. A couple of new gods that I needed, and an old issue of Two-Fisted Tales.
I saw you posted. That was great.
Yeah, it was $10, but an original EC for $10. I'm not going to leave that there.
No,
the cover is loose, but it's still an original EC for $10.
The best pickup I saw is this young guy who's, if you're listening, thanks for joining the Queen's Comic Podcast and following us. He got Beware 10 from Frank Frazetta, graded.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, how much you paid for it? And I thought he gave me a crazy price. It was amazing. It was very good price for a book that's in the...
This was at King Con or Big Apple?
King Con.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm only talking about King Con right now. And I was so jealous that he found something at a great price. 2, great condition. 3, historical piece of comic books, because that is the book they talk about in not McCarthy hearings.
The Seduction of the Innocent.
Seduction of the Innocent. So he talks a lot about it. And so the guy posted it. He was like, oh, I got this at King Con. The thing that I realized is that a lot of people went to King Con. They're not like glory posters. Mm-hmm. They're guys who collect and finish runs. And you realize that's very comic community oriented.
The slogan for King Con is by the community for the community. And they pull it off. It's run by guys who love comic books. There are a handful of artists there. This was the first time they'd had artists. Was this one around?
Oh
Normally,
yeah, that's gonna be the next subject we jump into.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
take the comics for a minute and then jump into them.
There's no toy dealers. There's no Funko Pop dealers. There's no video game guys. It's just comic books.
I love no Funko. No offense. When I see big dealers talking about like, oh, they're the way of Beanie Babies, and dudes who used to get offended for saying that, and now they're like, no, I have to accept it. That's it.
Right.
You know,
I don't begrudge anyone who wants to collect Funko Pops. Go for it, but it's not my thing. When I go to a comic show, what do I want? I want comics. I don't care about the rest of the stuff. So,
and I'm not about future investments. I'm more about like right now enjoying the time.
Yeah, I agree.
So all right, then let's jump to artists because that was a big thing I was going to ask. Did they have an artist alley?
No, they didn't have an artist alley. They had 2, possibly 3 artists. I know Johnny Desjardins was there. He does a lot of like variant.
Yeah, a lot of people use him for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of exclusives. He's got a very cool style. And Ryan Brown was there.
I have some of his stuff downstairs.
Yeah, he had done some I know he did some Last Ronin variants and stuff like that.
Very nice.
And there might have been a third artist there. I wasn't there for the artists. I was there just to dig, and that's what I did.
I know. I saw how black your fingers were from the books. And
still haven't got the dirt off.
You think of Last Ronin, this is just a quick shout out. Eric Klaus is like my favorite variant cover for Last Ronin, and he's such an oddball artist. If you see him, you might love him. He's like very undergroundish.
I don't know if I know his stuff. What was his name?
Eric Klaus.
Okay.
He did a tribute to Blink-182 for one cover, and it was such a hit. But his Last Ronin's phenomenal. I buy all the posters whenever he comes to New York Comic Con, but I think he's North Carolina based.
Okay.
But back to artists around here. Big Apple Con, the artists were fun, but they were a little too on top of each other. I felt very bad. I had to step on a go-go to get to somebody, and I literally mean the band of Go-Go's. I had to step on the drummer, and then I think I got into it a little bit with the guy from Twisted Sister, the drummer, because he was there too, and with his painted on and goatee, which I felt so bad because he's such an old cat.
So they had the drummer from the Go-Go's
and the drummer of
Twisted Sister?
Yeah.
Were there as guests?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they were like side by side when you walk in, and then some cosplay people to the left that were like selling their prints, and then to the right was the New York Drummer Hall of Fame, I guess.
Okay.
And then I tried to go to artists. It was a little bit too packed up like that, too close together. And I went to go meet Roy Thomas. Great man. Dude was easygoing. He made fun of every comic I put in front of him to sign. He signed my copy of I think what's the one that Bernie Wrightson did artwork for a Conan-esque type character for Marvel.
Wrightson worked on that was Barry Smith.
No, it's Bernie Wrightson.
Barry Smith did the Conan prototype.
Oh, my mistake. But Roy Thomas is the one who wrote the book.
Correct.
Okay, my mistake. So it was him.
Yeah.
But he signed that copy. He was like, "Oh, wait."
Is it like where monsters dwell or something like
bingo,
that?
Yeah, bingo. It's something dwells.
It's Conan, except his helmet is green, basically.
Yeah. And he signed it for me. So where is all that stuff?
I don't know.
I have no idea where anything is because I moved down to another level. But like, we have so many. Like he signed so many books, and what he did was like 10 books is if you donate money to the Hair Initiative, and then they charge you a little bit more to sign CGC books. Which I'm still surprised people still do them. CGC because it's like we did a con last. Do you remember the con we did a couple of weeks ago at Long Island?
Yeah.
There were so many dudes selling graded books, but everybody just wanted raw. Everybody wanted books to look and read, and it was cool. But like, I realized raw is the way to be, man.
The interesting thing is a lot of the dealers at King Con said the same thing. Raw books were moving better than graded books were moving, which is, I think, the way it should be personally, just because read your comics, right?
Bingo.
I get it if it's an investment. We've had this talk like a million times, so like we're on the same page. But it's interesting that like raw books are now selling the way.
Yeah, and the prices are better than graded.
Prices have dropped. The market's in a slump right now. Prices have come down on a lot of keys, so it's a good time to have a little bit of money to spend on comics.
Yeah.
King Con was spread out over 2 days this time, which is the first time they've done it. Saturday, the first day of the show, I believe they set an attendance record. They had over 500 people show up, which is pretty good for that space.
Yeah.
And the second day, I think it was about half that, but people were still buying. So that's what matters.
Big Apple was almost like, I want to say 1,000 or more.
Yeah.
For 2 days, maybe 2,000 for all that time. People were coming and going because it was just but you feel the frustration. It's too packed. It's too small. It's 2 big rooms. And I love Big Apple. I'll always like Big Apple. I'll always like Mike Carbonero shows. But the other thing that bugged me out was like, why is it the same day as King Kong?
Mhm.
And why he had like
That's not the first time that's happened either.
yeah, that's childish as hell. But then on top of it, there was a third Comic-Con show 3 blocks away at another hotel, and that's where all the celebrities were. Because I've had a little bit of problem going to their shows and trying to meet somebody from like the Mets, like Dwight Gooden, and then they no show, and they're like, "Why are they on the flight?" They're like, "Oh, I was never coming." And then this guy booked another show same day, so there was 3 shows running at the same time.
Yeah, it's not.
So you lose the people who are there for celebrities. That's why we got the Go-Go's, and they got all the Playboy centerfolds who were at the other place. So
Might have rather had the Playboy centerfolds.
I was okay with neither. But like I was there for comics and to
Right.
talk smack with my friends and meet a couple of new artists and indie comics. And Roy Thomas was phenomenal.
So what else did you get signed? You got your Conan prototype
I got my X-Men 66 where Neil Adams changed is the first time Neil Adams incorporates a character grabbing the logo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that book.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that one where it's I think Living Pharaoh grabs it. And then the other one is Nick Fury #4, the famous cover.
Mm-hmm. Steranko cover.
Yeah, so Steranko signed it years ago. I finally got Roy Thomas to sign it, so now I got both of them.
Nice.
Only thing is, though, what I don't like is on Key Collector, is that sometimes you look up Roy Thomas books, and if he's a co-writer with somebody, he never gets top billing.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a famous old Hulk book where he's coming out of the ground, 104, I think it is. It's by Bill Everett and Roy Thomas, and it said Bill Everett on the Key Collector, because I'm not going to open up every single book, look for the damn name.
Right.
So I was all bummed out. I only brought 3 books. He was like, could have brought 10. That would be the same donation.
Yeah.
He gives you 10 as long as you donate to the Hero Initiative. And it's just a great guy.
Right. See, I thought about giving you my Conan #1.
Yeah, I would have got it
to have him sign, but
and great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy. And he you could tell somebody who likes comics because he's making fun of them. He's like, they're called funny books, right?
Anytime I've seen an interview with him, he comes across as a dude who's got a great sense of humor and really likes what he does.
Like, but most definitely. When he was like, well, what do you do with him? I was like, the ones that I get signed, I put on my wall. And he goes, why? He uses him as toilet paper. And I was like, come on. I was like, bro, I like your work. He's like, I know. And like the fact that somebody can be humble and fun reminds me why I like comic books. Yeah. Roy Thomas is definitely like that. All the artists there were like that. Good hearts, good minds. I like comics. One of the vendors almost fainted. And I caught him and I gave him some water and I got him a cookie. And I was like, you're a diabetic. He's like, how'd you know? I was like, I know, you're turning colors, fella. And I ran into another guy, my friend Will from Long Island, who has his own show, which I'm having a little bit of brain fart on the name of their podcast, but I'm going to post it on here. But they do a New York hardcore, American hardcore, mixed with comics podcast.
Oh, these are the guys from the New York hardcore?
Oh, yeah, Kill Your Radio podcast.
Are these the guys from NYHC Comics?
No, that's Dobbs Ferry. These are Long Island cats.
Okay.
This one is Kill Your Radio podcast on Long Island, and they play a lot of new bands. And I was with Will all day. We went and had lunch afterwards.
That's cool.
And I've known that guy for like 15 years. And me and him talked about comics. Me and him racked up a lot of stuff. He finished some runs. He told me he's looking for Fright Night, so I grabbed as many Fright Nights as I can at other vendors the last 2 weeks.
Of the Now Comics series?
Yeah. So I'm going to give it to him when I see him. Because I understand when you're trying to finish it. My run I'm trying to finish from now is Married with Children.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Real Ghostbusters.
Right.
We were talking about this morning, #1, but I was not going to drop $60 on that book.
Yeah. Midtown had it for $60 on their wall. That's what Billy's referring to. And I don't know. I mean, it goes for that. But
yeah, and they had a good deal today. Today we racked up.
It seems to me like that's one of those books that if you keep digging, you'll find it for $1.
That's why I'm not worried.
I mean, it's Now Comics, right? All the Now Comics stuff shows up in dollar bins for the most part.
Well, did I tell you how I got started with that book, Ghostbusters?
No.
I went to the Queens comic book meetup in deep into Forest Hills in Queens, and I was like, all right, let me go out there. And after we had lunch, we talked about Shirtless Bear Fighter.
Yep.
That was about the comic book we were talking about. One of the artists who I actually ran into at Big Apple, who's a great artist. Hopefully he's going to do Queen's Comic Party. Me and him went to a newsstand that was selling comics. And one of them was Ghostbusters #4.
How long ago was this?
This was last year. Yeah, I was like, you still have old comics?
Selling old comics.
Yeah. The guy's like, yeah, I have boxes. He's like, I was like, can I see them? He's like, no, I'm going to keep putting them out little by little so you guys have something to grab. I said, cool. It was just nice. Right. And it was right off the train station of Union Turnpike and on the F, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's out there a ways.
Yeah. It took me a minute. Usually I drive out there, but I like if you're ever in any town you're listening to this in, if there's a comic book meetup, go do it, man. Go talk about comics. Meet other nerds because they just want to talk comics. That's it.
I know there's a shop in Brooklyn. I don't remember which one it is. It might be Anyone Comics that does the swap.
That's how the Queen's Comic Party started.
Yeah.
We started off as a comic book swap,
Right.
and I was like, they had a swap last month, and I racked up a lot of great variants. The guy was like, just take them.
Mhm.
I was like, come to my table, take what you want. We just swapped. I met a bunch of young folks that needed books, and I was like, yo, just tell me what you're looking for, and I have a list downstairs to look for them at cons, because you never know. I'll find it for cheap, and they want to finish sets. You know what I mean?
Yep.
One of the books that somebody was looking for was actually the first appearance of Vibe from Justice League Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, I'm Puerto Rican. I want to get the Puerto Rican super. I started laughing. I was like, you got it. I'll find it for you.
There you go.
Great representation.
Yep.
Would you, if let's say they go head to head again, which they probably will, which is dumb. You going back to King Kong?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think I might join
It's
you.
$5 to get in instead of 30.
35.
Okay, so there you go.
35.
So that's $30 more you can spend on comics.
Oh my
Now
God,
you got to
Jewish.
pay. I guess you got to pay tolls to cross the bridge.
Well, we
But
split it on the
you
ride.
split it. You bring a couple. Get a couple people in the car. Works out. It's a mellower experience.
Yeah, it was very like people on top of me.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of friends. I was happy to see them. I met some new vendors, but a lot of them were definitely not ready to do a con. So I think a lot of them were last minute add-ons for all the people they lost to King Con.
Well, another thing about King Con is I know a bunch of people who are set up there.
Yeah.
So I'm not just going to shop, but I'm going to shop, like, potentially support friends.
Yeah, of course.
Which is important. So I knew at least 5 of the vendors that were set up there. You would have known at least 4 of them.
Yeah.
So that makes it cool because you're catching up with people you don't see all the time.
It should not be just looking for comics. It should be a community at this point.
Right. And they do a good job of fostering that. They also have a lot of like the Instagram and YouTube guys,
Mm-hmm.
like the guys from the Pressable Defects channel were there. The guys from the 3 Men in a Basement channel were there. Barry Gary is set up there as a vendor. Bronzeville is set up as a vendor. Erod is set up as a vendor. So they get eyeballs. They help bring in the crowd, but there is a community built around all that. Well, regardless of what you feel about like the YouTube and Instagram influencer guys, there's very much a community built around that type of stuff.
Well, Very Gary is the reason I turned around on a lot of influencers because we went to his table at New York Comic Con and my buddy bought Miles Morales' first appearance. And he gave him a great deal. And I was like, oh, why is the price so high? He's like, oh, because then you're going to make a deal. We'll do better. He's like, there's guys who come up here. They don't want to talk to you. Just pay it and leave. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But then when you talk to people, oh, this guy really enjoys comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm used to people trying to sell you something. And he wasn't trying to sell me like a variant.
No.
He wasn't trying to sell me his variant. That's only him. Or his mystery box. He was like, no, it's the stuff I got up here and you want to enjoy it? Check it out. I'll give you a great deal. And it was a great attitude.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, great guy.
Met him a few times. He's a nice guy. He's always got good books too.
Yo, dude, and then the fact that it's all negotiable is even better. Because I thought it was just high, but then I realized that you just got to have high for people to respect your stuff.
You know what else I found at King Con was 4 issues of the Serial Killers comic book that came out.
I don't even know what that is.
It's just called Serial Killers. And I was like, oh, they have such cool, garish, tacky covers. They suck. They're bad. They're bad comics. They did try and get them like accurate, the history, the actual events. And I don't honestly know how I feel about it now that I'm thinking about it. Real people are maybe affected by this and maybe I should feel like kind of a shit for buying them, but I bought them secondhand, so nobody got any money.
Yeah.
The creators didn't get any money. And they're just weird artifacts of like the late 90s, early 90s black and white scene where like people like Hart D. Fisher from Boneyard Press put out that Dahmer book, right? Yeah. And it sold 1 billion copies and got them in all the papers and got them on all the headlines. And this is another publisher kind of cashing in on that, I think. And they're sort of tacky and sort of trashy, but they're weird enough that I wanted them. And they were $1 a piece. So.
Well, how do you feel about Derf's book on My Friend Don?
I haven't read it.
Oh,
but that's his own story.
That's his story before everything.
Right.
He just talks about the child that he had. He went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
In Cleveland.
So he's not cashing in on anybody else's experience. He's telling his own story. I have no problem with that. I think that's totally fine. But this is somebody else cashing in on somebody else's story. It's not these comic books weren't written and illustrated by people who lived through it or have like a personal connection to it. It's a cash grab.
True.
It's exploitation.
Well, all right. One more question before we jump on to something else. Did you get yourself a good book to talk about on our indie section of the book?
Our Underground of the Week?
Underground of the Week. Yeah, I just froze up on that.
I do. I have. Well, we'll just go straight to it then, right? I know which one you're talking. The one I just bought.
No. The ones that did you get any of these at King Con?
No.
That was the only thing I was worried about is that you found a Two-Fisted Tale.
Yeah.
You found old books.
Yes.
Indie books nowadays seems to be harder and harder to find. So
stuff's going out of print.
And they pre-house you. These dealers, they're very honest. They're like, we're not finding any of that stuff.
You know what I want to talk about though that I did find at
What's up?
King Con was I found 2 more issues of Charles Burns' Black Hole.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm only missing 1 more now. I have the trade, and so we're going to talk about Black Hole. I have the trade, and I reread it last week, and so good.
Charles Burns is
so
a master
good.
of that. It's a great story. It's more of a coming of age story when they catch a disease or something.
It is. It's. I mean, it is. Excuse me, a coming of age story of sorts. Yeah, it's also clearly it's about sexually transmitted diseases. It's about fitting in, finding your own crowd. It's about being an outsider. Like it touches a lot of different things. And reading it from start to finish I finished the trade over 2 nights. So I plowed through it.
It's a big book.
It is. And it's not always easy reading. Even when there isn't a lot of dialogue. I mean, not easy reading in that you have to digest a lot to really, get the most out of it. And it's thought provoking and like it's weirdly sexy in some spots. It's scary in other spots.
It's the way it's drawn.
Yes.
It's all black ink.
There's that, and there's like he creates such a perfect mood. It's unlike anything else I've read. Like it stands out as like wholly unique to me. And I can't say that about a lot of comics.
True.
Like nothing else feels like Black Hole.
And then what's cool is that if you get the single issues, you have these color covers, while everything else is black and white, or well, like shades of blue and black.
That's it. Like I have the trade. I don't need the singles, but because I found a bunch of them in dollar bins over the last year or so. So I've been picking them up, and now I'm only missing one. So it's like, okay, I have to find that one issue that I need. But the scene that really stuck out for me, I don't know why this is. It's when the one kid goes to buy weed and meets the girl who lives downstairs. She's an artist. Oh, she's got the tail.
I know what you're talking about.
And he can't not look at the tail. He's like turned on by the tail, but frightened by the tail at the same time. And she's, willing to basically sleep with him as soon as he meets her. And it gets disrupted when his friend comes down looking for him, wondering what's going on with the weed deal. And then he goes back to her later and it happens. And the way he draws it, like thing with the tail, it's stuck in my brain. I don't know why it is. I don't have a tail fetish that I know of. Maybe I do, but it's stuck in my brain because like, he's drawn into like this other subculture that he's not a part of, and he's willing to contact this not really discussed. Like, okay, they don't really discuss what causes it, right? It's sexually transmitted. We know that much, but they don't go into the details about why everybody's affected differently. One guy who contracts this disease gets a mouth in his neck. Example, this girl happened to get a tail, and this guy's like willing to let himself accept this disease of sorts that will cause him to mutate just because he's so drawn to this girl. Part of it's the fact that she's beautiful, even with the tail, she's still beautiful. And part of it's the fact that he's really drawn into who she is and her art and her creative side. And that's I don't know why, like it was moving in a weird way. I usually read comics and be like, wow, that hit me. Well, I wish more of them did, but
the longer you read comics, the more you find yourself finding 1 or 2 gems like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like the book a lot. I love that it's affordable book. Because all his other work is not affordable.
Not really, no.
I think
it's hard to find.
I'm even talking about trade paperbacks and reprints. 8-Ball, Ray Gun is way overpriced.
Yeah. That's Klaus.
I'm sorry, Ray Gun is that. But 8-Ball is Klaus too?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Big Baby was Burns.
Which one's Charles Burns? Oh, Big Baby. They can afford
that's
oh man.
The original Big Baby books are expensive.
Yeah, but the original, but I'm talking about trade paperbacks. The whole time I thought Charles Burns and 8-Ball was the same guy.
Nope.
Daniel Klaus. Wow, I feel so bad. Well, take away my underground comics card. I called them indie anyway a minute ago.
Those are indie. They're not the underground.
Yeah. Wow, the whole time. So now I don't feel bad because that book is so affordable.
Yeah, and you can get the trade for like $15.
But that's what I'm trying to say. But
they keep it in print.
Yeah, and it keeps reaching new masses, and it's like a whole new group of people. The whole time I was always confused why one book was cheaper than the other.
Yeah.
All right, now I understand.
Another thing that I had, like as I was reading it, I was like, I'm shocked with how many comics have been turned into movies and TV shows over the last 10, 15 years that nobody has touched Black Hole.
I think it's because it's a story about youth.
Maybe.
And STDs to some degree.
Yeah, but I still think you could do it with an R rating. Easily with an R rating. Maybe it's too weird.
Maybe.
But I mean, as I was reading it, I was thinking like the way that it's drawn and illustrated and just the way it's all laid out and the pacing on it, it felt very, very cinematic in a lot of ways. And it doesn't need to be made a movie because it's perfect the way it is. It just surprises me that, like, to the best of my knowledge, nobody's approached Burns and been like, I would like to make a movie out of this because it would be a good one.
I guarantee somebody has and just
maybe
turned them down.
Could be.
Because, like, look at American Splendor.
Yeah.
The guys had a play made about him, a TV show, about everything, just to retell the same story he's already telling about how he started writing comics.
So they did make it into a movie too.
A movie that's successful, but
Yeah.
he's been around since 1979, right?
Yeah, maybe even earlier.
And then the movie is about them trying to make a movie or a play out of his stuff.
Yeah.
And at one point, there is a play with Molly Shannon playing his wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what made me laugh. It was like all this stuff just to tell the same story over and over again.
Yeah.
For 23 issues.
Right.
So, what's another book you read then? Because I just picked up my first indie book. My first underground comic ever.
So, talk about that.
Well, I'm having a brain fart on what it was. I got issue 1 and 2, but I put them downstairs.
It was, I know it was a Crumb book, wasn't it? It was Motor City.
Motor City. I got 1 and 2.
We went I need number 2. I have number 1, but I need number 2.
Oh, sorry, I grabbed it.
No, it's good. It's good.
I went to Action City Comics. Somebody brought it. In New York, somebody will always bring in a huge collection of underground comics to sell. I got 3 for Ian, and I took 2 for me because I never had them. And they're a little bit big. I love Crumb. I have his complete Crumb collection, but I've never had a physical Crumb book. So I grabbed the Motor City. And they're really good books. They're really cool, but you realize like how cool underground comics are when you get them in your face.
Mm-hmm. And there's something about them. Like they're printed on the worst possible paper. Mm-hmm. Half the time the print quality is super fuzzy, but there's just something fun about them.
100%.
So then let's make my pickup that you got for me, because Billy grabbed a couple for me, our Underground of the Week, since you left yours downstairs.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right, so we'll talk about Robert Crumb's Big Ass Comics #1. It's weird sex fantasies with the behind in mind. Sorry, kids, adults only, featuring Exactly Among the Vulture Demoness. So yeah, Billy picked this up for me when he was shopping last week, and as soon as you open it up, right there, like to ride, then climb aboard the Big Ass, and it's a rather voluptuous woman bending over in like a post-apocalyptic landscape with a seed catalog in her back seat, giving you the thumbs up. So get on it. Hey, all you cast-offs of the degenerate bourgeoisie, come on, all you whiny, sniveling brats of the affluent middle class, hop right up there. Let that holy mother Big Ass carry you back home. So yeah, it's Crumb working out his ass fetish.
Most definitely. They even mention it in American Splendor.
Mm-hmm. The first story is Exactly dealing with a vulture demoness, so the cover doesn't lie. It gets weird. It's a lot of like physical degradation. She's kicking him around and stomping on him. She's got the leather boots and the big boobs and the thick thighs. He winds up having sex with her. She's obviously huge compared to him, and then he gets chased out a window, and then she wants more sex. So yeah, he's not leaving much to the imagination in this one. Second story is Dale Steinberger, the Jewish cowgirl. Yeah, I don't know how much detail I'm going to go into on that one. It's a Jewish cowgirl at a bar.
Let's leave it at that.
Well, he gets into a gunfight. It's a Western, kind of a spaghetti Western parody with some ethnic humor worked in. And then, there's a one-pager in the back for All Meat Comics that gets reasonably obscene and ends with a giant dick going woo after ejaculating. So yeah, not for kids. Book is not for kids, even by Crumb standards. It's more adult than some of his other books. At any rate, I've wanted a copy of this for a long time, and Billy was able to get one for me at a price I didn't mind paying, because some of this stuff does get pretty expensive.
I love it when you can see it for under $20, any of these books.
Yeah.
There's so many of them out there that you want to finish.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a pleasure to find something for a good price. If you ever see American Splendor, let a man know, because I never see them.
Yeah.
I saw the first one ever, and I own it, number 13.
Yeah.
Never seen one before that.
I have one.
What, number 1? Or?
No, it's not number 1. We mentioned this a couple episodes back. I found it at a flea market. It's the issue that Crumb did the story in. I don't remember the number. That's the one I have. I found it for $1.
Dude, I've been collecting 33 years? 38 since I was 5. I've never seen one in person.
Right. Did they ever compile those?
Yeah, they're right next to you.
So they are. All right.
Complete Crumb 1 through 17.
No. I mean, did they ever compile the American Splendor stuff?
Oh yeah, it's right over there. The American Splendor one right behind Ultimate Warrior.
Oh yeah, I see it right behind.
Only thing that's not collected is his Our Movie Year.
You have a lot of Ultimate Warrior figures on that shelf.
I like them. I have them tattooed, and I have like a bunch of toys.
Did you pick up the Ultimate Warrior comics that Chaos put out years ago?
Yeah, I just sold 2 of them yesterday because the one where he beats up Santa Claus is the more expensive one, and everybody just wants number 1. A friend of ours bought number 2 and 3, so I was like, excellent. Yeah, when it comes to comics, American Splendor is like my completest book. Mm-hmm. I found the book that was signed by my ex-girlfriend, signed to her, and I kept it on there. It's right up there. It's his like, I think it's called Our Senior Year. And I also try and look for the original trades from the 80s that people would collect, and I'd love to find any of those. Yeah. I love that man as a person. the fact that he was just kind of a nutty man, and he was more than willing to fight with somebody like David Letterman.
Mhm.
And you gotta love stuff like that. Why not?
Oh yeah, those clips are on YouTube if you look for them.
Yeah, I
The Harvey
do. I
P. Kerr
do. I
Letterman
love
clips
him.
are out there.
That's the only one they didn't put in the film was him fighting with him. But then you got to look it up. He's like for comic books, he's the Andy Kaufman of comics.
Yeah, that's a pretty accurate description.
Yeah, but you're like, this guy's a maniac.
Mm-hmm.
I have a book that you haven't read. I don't know if it's right next to you, but it's called Commies from Mars. It might be right next to Criminal over there. Oh no, it's right above you, right next to the Nintendo.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, that's a book. I have one single issue. I'll find it for you and give it to you. But as a trade, it's always nicely priced. And look at the dirty artwork in there from Aliens and all that stuff. It's cool as hell.
A forward by your friend and mine, Jerry Garcia.
What a great guy! He named a great ice cream after him. I love that book because it was a random book to find.
The last Gasp publication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen like the single issues of this around. The covers are fantastic.
Yeah, the covers are way better than what you get inside.
They are.
But the artwork is just, it seems like different artists put together on all this stuff because it's not all matching up on some issues. But I love that. It was such a stupid
It's
name.
weird. Some pages, is it the same artist that did all this? Because some pages look like Ditko, some pages look like Von Bode. It's all, there's like Calvin and
different
Hobbes
people.
type style stuff.
Look on the back is all the covers. But the artwork inside is all different people.
Okay. I've never seen this before. I mean, I've seen, like I said, I've seen single issues around, but I've never flipped through it. It's pretty cool.
It's a good trade to get. It's always like $10 maybe, $20 max.
Yeah, this would be $10 well spent.
Yeah, most definitely. It's always up there with my books.
Oh, it's got some Irons work in it too. Mm-hmm. Some William Stout stuff. Yeah, there's some good people involved in this.
Yeah, I see your mind rolling. You're like, I gotta get this.
Yep, pretty much.
Is there anything else we can go over on this episode? Do you think we're good?
What did you read this week?
I didn't read much. I've been running around doing the comic shows.
All right.
But I did, what I read? I did like a review of some old books. Like I was like having fun with Brooklyn Dreams, which see like some guys like it's like a New York writer and artist's life, but it's mostly like abstract artwork.
I never heard of Brooklyn Dreams.
It's another little one that it's on here. It's from Penguin Books.
Okay.
It's right next to Books of Magic if you want to flip through it.
I gotta move.
Like stuff like that, and then what else? To be honest with you, this week was a big, heavy week of Epic collections because I was so behind.
Mm-hmm. And
Epic collections are like my favorite right now because I'm going to get every Marvel book ever from Silver Age on, but I'm going to get it slowly but surely. And I bought Aliens. I was rereading that.
So, okay, the Aliens Epic collection. The last episode we talked about how it was coming out. Now that you've got it, what does it reprint?
It reprints all the Dark Horse stuff, the very first
starting
stuff.
From the beginning?
Every single
So it's like the first 6-issue Black and White miniseries that Mark Nelson and Mark...
And then I think Earth War with Sam Keith.
Earth War, and then...
the one right after.
The airbrushed one by Denny V... I can never pronounce the guy.
It's always like 12 to 18 issues every trade.
Okay.
The first one is 6. It should be like 14.
6, 4, and 4. So 14 would make sense.
Yeah, because and then they'll also throw in the Dark Horse Presents short stories in them. Love that. Because they own the rights to that. Because that's my big thing is that they try and incorporate Marvel Comics Presents with all the stories. So Wolverine will have like 12 issues and then 4 issues of backup stories that were written by Sam Keith.
So they're doing the same thing with the Dark Horse material.
Because they own it.
Right.
So it's excellent.
Yeah.
And that's a hard set for me to finish.
Mm-hmm.
You got me the Sin City ones. And the worst thing is a week later, somebody gave me all the Sin City ones.
Of course they did.
Give me something else. Give me anything else because I love those books.
Yeah.
Anything Presents. Or now I got it. My new thing is I got in the box from you, A10, those atomic books, because I've never seen them. So
those are pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're always for like $1 or like $2. So I want to try and finish that.
They're fun.
Negative Burn.
Negative Burn has some amazing stuff in it. It's an anthology that's always in the dollar bin.
Yes.
So many people ignore it. You get Mobius work in there. You get Alan Moore in there.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman was in one.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman's in there. I think Brian Boland worked on a few of them.
J.O. Barr was in one of them, the Crow guy.
Another anthology that like everybody knows issue 1, but Caliber Presents, like the first 15, 20 issues of Caliber Presents, amazing stuff in there.
Yeah.
You get J.O. Barr, you get Tim Vigil, you get Guy Davis, you get Vincent Locke, all this cool stuff.
Oh, you got me addicted because we were talking about Mr. Monster last time. I bought the Vanguard all 7 issues just to get the first one. $20.
It's $20 well spent. I found 2 issues of Mr. Monster that I needed at King Con and Dollar Bins too. There's a Wrightson issue I need, and I believe. Oh, and I got the Dave Stevens cover one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mr. Monster was supposed to come out with a compendium, and it's been canceled. And I'm like, because one of the trades is like anywhere from $100 to $600.
Wow.
And I was like, are you serious? But they're ugly trades. They don't match up. which drive me crazy.
Who published the trades?
Different ones. Different ones. Like we'd have to look on here because it's 3 different companies doing it.
Probably like Dark Horse, Tundra, and somebody else. Do you have them?
Yeah, they're right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hang on 1 second. See, they're all different shapes.
Yeah.
There's 2, there's 3 altogether. Yeah, with the drink.
So Graffiti Designs did one.
Mm-hmm. And that one was like Fantagraphics.
This one is Marlowe and Company, who I've never heard of.
Yeah. That one is the easier one to find.
Okay. I've just been picking up the single issues.
Yeah, I would like to do that too, but I'm a trade guy. We're literally in an office of just trades.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when we talk about something, we can stop and be like, "Oh, I got it right here." Oh, and also my the last week has been picking up all the Eisner books because people have been selling their collections and moving away from New York, and hipsters love Will Eisner, which I love.
The Spirit stuff?
No. Spirit, we'll talk about in a second. I'm a little bit embarrassed by how that book is terrible. The Spirit is definitely not his best work.
I wouldn't say it's terrible. I think the Spirit has some amazing stuff in it, but
not compared to his work. Not compared
to
his,
like A Contract with God
People,
or something like that. Yeah,
you could tell
that's a different ballgame.
Like when I watched his documentary and him do interviews with Eisner, it seems like he did it just to fill in the space.
Okay,
and he tries his best to have a social message or anything like that. But when you read Invisible People, Dropsy Avenue, so I have to look at him on the side. The Heart of the Storm. That's true Will Eisner work.
Well, that's like real personal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but
it was also made decades later.
Well, throughout time he kept writing different stuff, but you could tell this was not like as much of his passion project as it should have been. It was a weekly strip, a weekly book to put out.
Yeah,
and I'm just doing stuff. It's like when I read Garfield comics, I'm like, this is not the best work this guy can put out.
Right.
But he's saving it for something else. And then when you see the Eisner collection, the Eisner library, those books, I have to get them.
Right.
I'm missing maybe 1 or 2, and they're all affordable. And I just started reading the plot. And now I understand why people put up with a lot of psychotic shit in this country and the world.
Yeah. See, I haven't read that one, but I do enjoy The Spirit. But I understand what it is. Yeah, weekly strip. Yeah.
Hold on. You know what it is? I realized I'm only reading the later books that he's reprinted.
Okay.
The single issues. I've never read the first 20 issues of The Spirit.
Okay.
For all I know, that's the best work of all time. But
it's not.
I can't afford it.
Right.
I can't afford these damn hardcover prices.
Yeah.
We went to Phoenix Comics in Long Island, and the guy was like, "Yeah, dude, I just got volume like 33 Masterworks." I'm like, "Dude, that's 33 trades of $50 a pop."
It's a lot of stuff. You can find them cheap sometimes on HamiltonBooks.com.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
but I need something more substantial.
Yeah,
I need like Elephant Man, Mammoth Collection with like 24 issues,
right?
Because I want to read them all, but I wouldn't know because it's only been a few of them. On the next episode, we'll go into some more Spirit stuff because I found some more weird trades for single issues of big books.
Sure.
And like this one, I'll end this Spirit talk on this one. I found the most perverted issue of my life of The Spirit, and I had to send it to Ian. All the screenshots, they were just filthy talking covers, and it looked like Will Eisner just having a ball with it.
You sent this to me?
I sent you photos. And you're like, "Oh, that's a great issue." And I'm like, "Yeah, he's talking about boobs and this."
Oh,
and
yes.
And I was like, "This is so random." But
I don't remember which issue number that was.
No, I don't remember. I don't think it is a number. It was just all lost. Like it was all fakakta. It was all messed up, you know?
Yeah.
But I love stuff like that. And like the thing is, though, definitely if somebody needs well, now they're doing it with Eisner. There's a lot of artists and writers out there that need a collection. Put out their stuff. Let's see it. Spain has 2 more books to finish his run because it's supposed to spell out his name from Fantagraphic Books. I got SPA. I need IN already.
Did you watch the documentary?
No, not yet.
It's good. You can rent it on Amazon for there's no DVD or Blu-ray release that I know of, but you can rent it on Amazon. I think for like either $3 or $5, and it's good. It's not. It doesn't go quite as in depth as I wanted it to. Did we cover this?
What, Spain? I think we talked about Trashman for a second.
Yeah, I don't know if we covered the documentary, so I'll just go over it for a minute. So it has involvement from his widow made the film, which is great. So obviously there's a very personal take on his life and career. But it has involvement from his daughter, who I didn't realize is a pretty talented illustrator in her own right. So it's cool, like, because you get a lot of neat footage from the end of his life, which is kind of heartbreaking because you can tell he's pretty sick. Yeah. But sitting at the table, one of the nicest spots is just him sitting at the table drawing with his daughter, who is an adult at this point, and he's giving her tips on how to improve. And it's just like a neat kind of moment in time between a father and his kid. So there's some nice moments like that. You get a good overview of like who he was in his younger days. He was a biker. He did have some connections with some tough guys. So that's atypical for a comic book artist. They talk about his involvement with like the Zap crew, and they talk about some of the controversy and whether or not he was a misogynist in real life or not. And I won't spoil it because you need to see it and kind of hear it. And it does a pretty good job of going over like the pros and cons of his work. And I don't mean like artistically in terms of like his drawing ability, but in terms of like the content of his work.
Yeah,
because some of it gets pretty.
Because you get Trash Man, which I think is a great book.
It is.
But then you get Cruising, which is like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like,
it gets pretty mean spirited. Some of it. So they do provide like a pretty good wasn't he a homophobe type stuff.
Yeah.
Based on that
and it's
particular
wild
story.
Because of the writers back then was San Francisco.
Yeah.
Everything's there. Everything's open-minded.
Uh-huh.
This is like, we're on the Castro, you know what I mean? Or wherever, like.
Well, the documentary kind of posits the idea to the viewer that he was using that story as therapy for himself, for something that he may have been involved in when he was younger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Which kind of makes you wonder, like, yikes.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes the story is being told ain't the story that they want to tell you, but they want to get it off their chest.
Right.
Which
it was a confession of sorts.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's worth seeing. Anybody with an interest in Spain Rodriguez's art or just underground comic scene in general should check it out. It's worth renting for a couple of bucks.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
There was one more book I wanted to talk about, but we always have one more book to talk about.
We do. We do.
That's the problem when you're surrounded by great work.
We got time. We got time for one more.
It's another book that I just got a little bit stuck because I was looking at Paul Pope stuff. And like him, I think he's a great artist, and I just can never get enough of his work.
So, carry on. But
is that the magazine when he was coming out with 100%?
What I picked up today at $1 is Wednesday Comics #6 from DC, which has a Strange Adventures story in it by Paul Pope. I'm opening it and looking at it for the first time now.
These were DC was trying something new around the 2000s.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a newspaper sized piece.
Yeah. And it was like, what, $1 or 50 cents?
It's actually got a $4 price on it, but I got it out of the dollar bin. They're a pain in the ass because they're giant newspapers.
Yeah, no, we used to pick them up in the shop all the time.
It has a Commandy story. It has a Superman story. But according to the cover, it did have a Paul Pope piece in it, which I'm going to find it. Oh, it's not Mike Allred doing Metamorpho, which is worth $1 right there.
Yeah.
There it is.
Is it a Batman story?
It's Strange Adventures. So... Yeah, it's Adam Strange. So it's a one-page Paul Pope Adam Strange story. And the art's fantastic.
No, I'm jealous you have one. I've had these for years. Like all of them because of the newspaper print. Them and Marvel did the same thing, but Marvel did they were doing it during the New 52.
Yeah, these are neat. My buddy Dan picked them out and put them back, but when I saw that there was Paul Pope in this one, I grabbed it, and there was Mike Allred on the other one. I didn't realize that they're both in all of these issues, so there were a bunch of them that I left.
So what do you need? Was it 12 issues, I guess you got to come?
I don't know how many there are. I had never seen these before today.
When you go in the shop. Because I have his Heavy Liquid. I have his 100%.
Uh-huh.
But I know he's got more work out there that I just haven't seen yet.
THB.
THB
is great. That's his early stuff. Yeah, it's hard to find. But
is there a trade of it?
I don't know.
You see, that's the goal. Keep looking, keep hunting, and you'll always find something new to read.
There you go.
And the last but not least is one of my favorite artists is Evan Dorkin.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep finding new stuff that he did. It's like Sam Keith and him just keep putting out stuff and you don't even know it till it's too late, or it's like way past later. You're like, oh, I got something to look back on.
I already told the story about getting my original Evan Dorkin piece, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yes, but I didn't show it to you. Next time you're over at my place, I'll show it to you. I should have shown it when you were over the other day, but
it's all right. We were lugging comic boxes. Ian almost killed himself carrying 4 out on one dolly.
I'm way stronger than I look.
No, well, you're way taller. You have the leverage. But we're going to wrap it up on there.
Yep.
Because we have a bunch of new stuff to talk about in another episode. We hope you keep subscribing. Check out our show and follow our website, queenscomicparty.com. Our Instagram, Queens Comic Party, Queens Comic Podcast, and also our personal ones.
Yep.
And so we're all on there. Follow us on there. We'll update everything new, and then we'll talk more about comics.
We will do that.
See you next time.
Bye.
Comic Podcast.